On this episode of the Ocean Cruisers podcast, I'm having a chat with Holly Martin, also known as the Wind Hippie. Holly was born on the water into a liveaboard cruising family with her parents and her siblings. She started a journey on the east coast of the States where she was living when she decided to refit her Grundy 27 sailboat ready for an adventure. She never intended to sail so far, but she has now reached Indonesia where she's enjoying some downtime and surfing to get ready for the next leg of her journey, which will be a long one across the Indian Ocean, where she'll look to complete a circumnavigation around South Africa and back to the Caribbean. If you want to catch up with Holly, you can check out her YouTube page, which is called Wind Hippie Sailing. Holly is also going to be a skipper at the Odyssey Sailing Festival in the BVI in April of 2025, and the cabins are now available for sale. The Odyssey Sailing Festival is a week-long party on a fleet of incredible catamarans with a group of legendary skippers at the helms. We do regattas, beach parties, raft ups, and basically experience everything the cruising life has to offer. This is the first festival that we will have done and the second time that we'll be hosting the festival in the BVI with Navigare. For the 2025 Odyssey Sailing Festival, the skippers are Dan and Kika, Keanu L. Zane, Dustin Reynolds, Glenn Shepherd, Lauren Landers, Erica and Warren, Raph and Sash, Eric the Viking, Holly Martin, Ian and Briony, and Laura Decker. If you'd like to book a cabin or a berth, visit theoceancruisers.com/Odyssey for more information, or email me, andy@theoceancruisers.com directly to book. Hopefully see you there, and for now enjoy the podcast with Holly Martin.
We've just been enjoying having air conditioning, so for the last couple evenings we just kind of lie in bed in the AC and don't do anything, so it wasn't really interrupting
staying
much.
chilled.
Yeah, exactly. So we were like, oh no, I have to lie in bed for another half hour and continue to read my book.
Yeah. We're buying ACs for the boat this year. This winter going into next year, because we've got quite a big battery bank and so a lot of solar. And trying to get to sleep when it's 40 degrees outside,
It's so hard.
and you're just sweating in bed. God, it's the worst. It is the worst.
Yeah. I do the I get a sarong wet and I put it over my body and put the fan on that, but that's about it's not very pleasant, but it works.
That's what they did thousands of years ago to cool down.
I know, that's where I got the idea.
It's very old-fashioned technology.
Book. It's those guys had some good ideas.
Yeah. We lived in I lived in Dubai for a long time, and this is what they claimed. So they claim that the people in the Gulf actually first invented air conditioning, but the original air conditioning was they had you have a chimney on a house, which is to take the smoke out. They used to have wind capture chimneys, and they used to put wet towels all around the inlets for the wind capture chimneys, and that would basically cool down the air. That would bring and it does work. We went into some of these old Bedouin houses that are still using them, and it's it is quite a bit cooler in here, so it does work.
That's clever. Yeah, that's really smart. I mean, I guess it's kind of like having a little wind scoop in your boat, except putting wet towels in your hatch.
Yeah. Have you got a wind scoop on the front of your boat?
I just have a huge foredeck hatch that opens and it kind of acts like a wind scoop.
Oh, mate, you should get a wind scoop. They make it way stronger.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing it because right now there's basically no wind, so I'm trying to harvest whatever I can of it. I'm thinking, I actually have a lot of sewing projects because I'm going to the States to visit my parents for Christmas, and my dad has a sewing machine, and so I have this whole list of things that I want to sew. Well, I need to make a big bow shade, and I want to make a wind scoop. And
very cool.
Stuff. Yeah, I'd resew my V-berth cushions, so be busy.
Yeah. All that stuff makes such a huge difference. When during the start of the summer, we ended up trying to find wind scoops in high season, in charter season, which was impossible because everyone just goes and buys a wind. Everyone just goes and buy the wind scoop. So it took us 2 months to find a store that had them. But the difference it made, you go from having a little bit of wind moving through your boat to if you stand underneath the hatch, it feels like you're in a hurricane. There's that much wind coming through, and it does loads to cool you down.
Amazing. So does it kind of curl? Does it kind of curl around the bottom of the hatch then? And
yeah, you can install them a couple of different ways, but so you basically open up the hatch and then you put the wind scoop around the hatch, so the hatch is actually within the wind scoop, and it's just like a big spinnaker basically that curls around it, but it probably brings 4 to 5 times as much wind in. For $30 they're well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just gonna make my own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you probably could actually. Yeah, it's probably easier
keep
to
the
make your own than
canvas.
trying to find them.
Yeah, yeah. And I love sewing projects, and I'm gonna spend a month in Maine, so I need to keep busy.
Yeah, I envy your enthusiasm for sewing. I've needed to get my sewing machine out for about a year now. And I've just been avoiding it. My enclosure has got like little rips in it everywhere, and I'm like, I can get a few more years out of this before I need to get the sewing machine out. But
Yeah, I actually really love sewing. It's one of the things I'm excited
I
to
enjoy
get
it.
when I move off my boat is a sewing machine.
My advice is if you're gonna, have you already got a sewing machine? Have your parents got one?
Yeah, my dad has a couple because he does all sorts of boat stuff, but he sews a lot of Bimini's and Dodgers and blah, blah, blah. So he has some
Oh,
industrial
nice.
ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we when we got our old boat, we got like one of these sewing machines, that you just get from like the home store or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the best one. It's $400, but they're totally
Really?
useless. Do you know if you're trying to go
Oh,
through like vinyl and stuff like that and like Sunbrella fabric, they just don't hold up. So we bought one that was made in like 1953 or something.
yeah.
We found the serial number on this sewing machine, and it was like one of the first ones imported in America from Japan after they started like trading with them again. And the thing's 70 years old, and it's amazing. It will go through everything. It's just a powerhouse.
That's that's how, yeah, my dad's was an old like World War II factory
Yeah.
sewing the uniforms one. And you can put, man, I've just done like a zipper on top of three folded bits of canvas and it just eats it.
Oh yeah. Well, the woman who I was talking to about sewing machines. I bought something off her for my old house. I can't remember what it was, but I got talking to her, and she used to sew the I don't even know what they're called, the stirrups and the chair that goes on the horse that a human sits on.
Oh,
I don't know what that's called. The
a
saddle.
saddle?
Yeah, saddle. I'm not a horse guy, it's just a human chair for a horse, whatever. But anyway, so she used to sew them,
Sure.
which is like 4 or 5 layers of leather. And I was like,
Yeah,
what
that's
sewing machine do
hardcore.
you use for that? Because I can't find a good sewing machine. And she was just like, get one made in like the 1940s or the 1950s, and it will still work and it will be the best sewing machine that you can get. And it's
Yeah,
true.
they made stuff better back then. That's crazy though that you can sew through leather because I always thought you had to hand sew leather.
No, no, she used a big, it was a Singer sewing machine, but it was from like the 1940s or something. Like, it's just like this
That's so
huge piece of
cool.
steel. But yeah, she's like, it'll go through like 4 or 5 layers of leather, no problem. So I was like, okay, gonna get one of
Cool.
them. So
Sign me
the
up.
horse, the horse lady helped me out on that one. She gave me
I'll
good
look for
advice.
that.
So, mate, last time we spoke, you were in the Caribbean, and you'd not actually been on the boat for that long because that was a couple of years ago now. Um,
That's
so
crazy.
yeah, you've done quite a few miles since then. You finished off the Caribbean,
Yeah,
you went through Panama, you've crossed the Pacific, you've done a
almost
bit.
half the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, I can't
long's
believe it
just
was that long ago.
yeah. That's how time operates, isn't it?
It's
It's a linear.
faster the older you get. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it does as well. Teenage years just last forever. You're just miserable and you've got spots and you hate your parents. And then, yeah, when you start traveling, it goes by really quick.
Super fast. That's
Yeah. So,
crazy.
how's it been for you then? Because you've taken your boat from like relatively safe waters, I suppose. Because obviously, like you went down the coast of the States and you're in the Caribbean, so you got
Mhm.
access to everything. And then, like crossing the Pacific, that's where you're testing out your skills, really, isn't it? So, have you found it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I never planned to sail solo beyond the Caribbean. I always had this sort of daydream of meeting people that I would enjoy spending time with and have them come along with me. And then I
Yeah.
ended up on the other side of Panama and I was like, well, guess I'm doing this by myself.
Different plan.
And just, yeah, really, like the passage to the Marquesas was 41 days alone at sea, and that was incredible. I
Whoa.
absolutely loved it. Yeah, I started really looking forward to it. And then it's just like a very, very long meditation. And at the end of it, I got to the point where I could dissect my life and just, it was like I was an impartial witness, like my own therapist, and I could look at these painful memories or questions that I had and without any emotion, I would just like, oh, this is what I should do. And now I
Oh,
go into
magic.
that. Yeah, every time I go to sea now, I go into that headspace within the first couple days. And I kind of when I have a big question or a big thing that I need to figure out in my life, I always feel like I just want to go to sea because it becomes so clear to me. So it's kind of like this really awesome headspace where there's no distractions. Like I don't have Starlink, I don't have a sat phone, I don't have at sea email. It's basically just me and my boat, and it's
Nice.
really chill. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could just figure it out. So yeah, I mean, it's a way for you because you're drowning out all the noise, aren't you? You've not got anything disturbing you, and I suppose you've got incredibly clear thoughts when you're out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it gets that way. The first 24 hours is always really hard. It's like this part of the brain, the ego, that's
Mm,
used to having people around you. It's almost like you have to go through ego death. The first sunset, I always get really sad. And then I
mm,
kind of wake up the next morning and I feel a bit refreshed. And then the next sunset, it's sort of that like, all right, getting into it now. And yeah,
yeah.
it just becomes a like a floaty mid-level brain feeling.
Do you think that's more the solitude side of being offshore and sailing, or do you think it's like sea therapy? Like, obviously you were born on the water, and it's where like you enjoy spending your time. But do you think that's the ocean and the environment around you, or is it just like the solitude of being alone and not being distracted?
I think it's both because I love being at sea. It's really my happy place. And I love being on my boat and I love having a purpose. Like, as long as I'm keeping the boat sailing, then
Yeah,
I am doing everything that I have to do. So I'm not sitting around like, oh, I should do the dishes or answer that email. I'm like, no, I'm fulfilling my purpose, which is very base level. And then I have the rest of the
get
time
somewhere.
to just yeah, change sails, maybe just
Yeah.
ignore sails.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then it's just me that I have to look after, and I
Mm,
don't actually need that much to make me happy. And I think, I don't know, I know at least for me and probably a lot of us, I'm a procrastinator, so I feel like I always have stuff hanging over my head. But then at sea, I just don't feel that way because if I'm fulfilling the purpose of keeping the boat going, then there's nothing else that needs to happen. Like I have this rule that I don't do editing at sea. I do film, but I don't do anything else. Everything else is just fun stuff. And so I think it's like if you hated being at sea and you went out, I don't think you would get there. And I don't know if I would get there alone in another situation. Because when I'm on anchor alone, then I do get lonely sometimes when I see there's people around me and I kind of want to join, but I don't know how all the time. And
mm.
then it's a completely different feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what, like 40 days to the Marquesas from Panama? That's a
Mhm.
fairly long time. What type of speed did you average then? Would that have been like 3 or 4 knots or something like that?
Yeah, I was averaging, I think I averaged 100-mile days,
That's pretty
because
good.
it's about 4,100 miles, 4,000
Mm,
miles, something like that. I had a lot of light winds, though, a lot of days where
yeah.
the sails were just flogging and I was barely moving.
Mm,
And then it's funny because I left at the same time as a couple of my friends, and we all had completely different passages
yeah.
just from the different boat speeds we ended up. Like one of my friends had a ton of really strong wind and he actually ripped one of his sails, and I barely had anything over 20, 25 knots, maybe 1 or 2
Oh,
days of it.
nice.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at journeys of that length, like if you're setting off with a boat that will average like 1.5 knots faster than you, like when you're 2 weeks in, you're a few hundred miles ahead already, aren't you? So yeah, you're going
Yeah.
to get a totally different weather state.
Yeah. Completely different. And then it's just
Yeah.
luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I got
So,
lucky on that passage.
so have you found it then, mate? Because you were hanging around in the Caribbean, and like one of the things I enjoy most about cruising is like the friends you make and the time
Mm.
that you spend with like cool people that you decide to like share your life with. When you're moving and you're going from the Caribbean, which I suppose is like quite a social area to cruise actually, and then you're heading like way out into the Pacific. Have you found the actual cruising life a little bit more lonely, like less people, or has that not been a problem?
Yeah, I actually have started finding it to be that way.
Yeah.
French Polynesia was magical because I was there during COVID, and so there
Mm.
were about 100 or 200 cruisers who were just there for two
Oh,
years,
locked
and
in.
it gave me such an unrealistic idea of what cruising was like because I did the whole Caribbean.
Unrealistic idea about COVID as well. Actually, it's not all French
Yeah,
Polynesian COVID.
like I learned how to kite,
Sometimes,
I learned how to free dive. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
nice experience.
the Caribbean I did. think I did the whole thing in about 2 months, and I did every island. I was just kind of bombing down, but really excited. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then Polynesia, yeah, I started to get to know all the cruisers, and everywhere I went, I knew someone. I was like, this is awesome. We all love
Yeah.
the same things. And um, then Fiji was also cool because that was sort of when the world opened up and everyone went to Fiji. So it was the same little group of friends. But then after that, New Zealand wasn't really the live aboard situation that I was
Yeah.
used to. So you rock up to an anchorage and it's just full of people's boats that they take out on the weekend, which feels weird.
Yeah.
And then Vanuatu and the Solomons were basically didn't see any other sailboats the whole time I was there, especially the
No way.
Solomons. Yeah, Vanuatu a bit more. The Solomons, it was just me and my buddy boat the whole time. And
Yeah.
then Indonesia, there aren't a ton of cruising boats. That I think it's just so many islands. There are a
Yeah.
bunch
It's
of
such a big
sailors
place
here,
as
but
well.
yeah, you just don't bump into as many. So it is starting to feel a bit lonely in that sense where I don't really have that community of like-minded people from the same cultural background around me. So it feels a bit different.
Yeah. Do you like obviously you like being out there on the water and like just engaging with yourself and figuring your stuff out. When you are in when you're not out on the ocean, you are an anchor, do you prefer to be surrounded by like people who are on boats and like-minded folk, or do you prefer to go and anchor in like the corner of the anchorage and stay to yourself anyway?
I kind of like a combo of the two.
Yeah.
If I've spent a lot of time alone, then I seek out that community and that company. But then after a while, there's always a part of me that wants to just go be completely alone for a while. I think I need a little bit more alone time than the average person. I like
Mm.
to just sort of recharge by myself. And sailing is really perfect for that. But I think Indonesia, it's a little bit on the alone side more than I wish it was sometimes.
Yeah, you just don't have the option. Is that so? That's where you? No, you're not in Indonesia now, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, right, okay. And
Yeah.
how long do you think you're going to spend there before you shoot off to the next place?
Actually, quite a while.
Yeah,
Because this season to cross the Indian is in May-ish, and I'm not gonna leave this May, so it'll be next May. But I'll have another year and a half.
right. Well,
But
you'll save a lot of money anyway. That's one positive about it.
yeah, and I'm just not ready to. I don't know. I think once I start doing the Indian, it's just huge ocean passages,
Yeah,
and you kind of do it all in a row until you get back up to the Caribbean or Cape Verdes or wherever, because the way
mm,
the seasons work. And to me, it kind of represents the end of my, even though it's half the world, it's sort of the end of the like la 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 cruising life, and I'm just not ready to
yeah.
let that go yet. So I decided to spend another year in Indo, just hanging on to it a little bit longer.
Have you not thought about going to a few more places in Asia, or is it like would that just be too difficult with the like with navigating because you're in Indonesia already?
It's hard because there's not much wind, because
Mm,
you're sort of playing around the equator. And
yeah,
I have friends who've done Malaysia and they say it's so much motoring, and my boat just it
yeah, that's
can't
true.
motor. The engine is basically on its last leg.
Yeah,
It doesn't, yeah, it overheats, it leaks oil, it leaks salt water, it randomly doesn't start, it randomly turns itself off. So I can't rely on it. So I can't really go to those places for that reason. Strictly sailing.
have you ever thought about putting in an well, okay, I mean, obviously, like engines aren't cheap, but that's a small engine, so you could probably get one put in for like 5 grand. Would that be an option to keep you in like the to keep you in Asia for a little while longer?
Yeah, I have thought. I mean, ironically, I did replace the engine in New Zealand, but just with an older one that was worse.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah, and I mean, it was because the one I had broke in Fiji, and I
right,
had to replace it, and didn't feel like spending the money on a new one. I don't know. It just I always have this philosophy that people have been sailing for so long, and it's only recently that we have good engines and
true,
good navigation and sat charts. And I already have so much that, my parents didn't have when they circumnavigated, the early explorers didn't have. That in a way, I'm just really happy with what I have. And even though it's limiting me, I kind of like having to sail everywhere because I don't know, it just makes me feel good. I guess that's the way I want to do it. But I did just go on a friend's boat catamaran I sent you the photo of, and they were like, yeah, we're just gonna motor around to the next anchorage. They turned the engine on, it started up, it wasn't loud. I was like, this is pretty cool.
It's nice. It does feel like cheating though, I think. Like we're in winter in the Med now, so it's like the days where you do have winds, you can often get too much, but it's more so like the sea state is generally very confused because there's so many systems like interacting with each other. So it's pretty unpleasant. So we just choose to like pick light wind days and motor, but it doesn't feel good. Do you know, like when you arrive at the destination and like you've just burned like 40 liters of diesel and like it's been like like the entire way, you don't get that same satisfaction like arriving at a new place when you got there under engine, I think, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the other thing. I save a lot of money. I mean, I have a 10-gallon diesel tank, so it's what, 40 liters tank,
Yeah.
and then one Jerry, and I filled that one up in August, and I haven't filled it up since
You haven't
because I
topped it up yet.
physically because I physically can't use my engine.
Yeah, I suppose,
But
yeah. Could you stick
it
an
makes for
outboard
a
on the
good
back
story.
even or something like that?
You know, I looked into doing that because to cross the Panama Canal, you have to be able to average 5 knots under power, which I can't
Oh, right.
do. And I was trying to figure out all these different ways to make it happen. And because I'm a double ender and I have a huge wind vane sticking out the back, there just isn't really a good way to put an outboard on the back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you'd have to get
Yeah.
like a really long shaft one and it'll probably get wet. So yeah, that won't be that good.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's worked so far. Although we had this horrible experience between all the islands in this, like you have Bali and then Lombok and Sumbawa, and there's maybe 20-mile wide passes between the islands, and there's so much current because you have the two different oceans kind of meeting. And we got stuck. We were trying to come through one of the passes, and there's this localized wind because of the volcano. So it was blowing 10 knots everywhere else. But in the north part of the pass, it was blowing 30. And so we had to wait for days and days for the wind to die down, but it was the full moon, so the current was so strong. We got halfway down the pass and the wind died, and I can't run the engine unless the boat is flat because something like it makes horrible sounds and smells. And so we're just getting washed out. It was 5 knots of current with standing waves, and we weren't under power. And the only way I could have the boat was backwards. Like it wouldn't go front on and it would go side on, which was even worse. So we spent 3 hours steering the boat backwards at 5 knots through standing waves, just getting flushed out this pass with like no control of where we were going. Wanted to stop halfway through the pass, ended up just like out on the south side of the island, just happy we didn't run aground or something.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was really
engines are good
intense.
for that. Yeah, they're good for getting you out of a bad situation. No, I think if you're gonna have like a philosophy of how to like sail around, I think like the way you're doing it is definitely like the most authentic way. But yeah, having it as a backup, like just even from a safety perspective, I think like it's worth it for that. But maybe not. Well, it's like you said, like you're at the point where you've already like checked out of the circumnavigation in a way because there's no. Is there any places that you want to stay on the way back? I take it you're not going to go through the Med because like we've not got that much wind, so you're gonna go round Cape of Good Hope.
Yeah. So we'll stop in there's Rodriguez and Mauritius are sort of the halfway
Mauritius.
in the middle of the Indian. And then I think it's 3,000 miles to those, and then there's Reunion Island, and then it's another 3,000 to South Africa. And that's just kind of because everything else it looks cool, but once again you have to cross the equator to get to it, and I just can't do that with my engine. And when I say it, it sounds kind of stupid. Like it makes me question why I'm doing it, but it just feels right. I don't know. It seems like a lot of effort to replace the engine.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, you're probably gonna have to take a month out with your boat on a hard or on a key wall or something like that. So yeah, it would. Mate, I met up with Limpardi in Annapolis this year. I've done a couple of podcasts with her, and she's she's a legend. And yeah, she circumnavigated twice on like a DIY wooden boat with like no engine. And
That's so cool.
The stories are just better. I think like when I'm listening to her and she's talking about storms and stuff, and they have bad weather, and it's like what did you do? It's like, well, we heaved to for like 4 days. It's
Yeah.
just so much more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you do end up with a lot of near misses, and those do make great stories. So
Yeah,
doing it for the adventure, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because you're doing it for the right reasons, aren't you? Because you want to like see the world and get blown around rather than like turning your engine on all over the place. What's been the highlights for you, mate? Because like you've done a lot in like the last 2 years. Is there any countries that stand out where you've just arrived and you've just like loved the vibe and the people and the food and like everything about the place?
Yeah, I mean, for me, French Polynesia
Oh yeah,
just I
ticks
I
all the
wanted to
boxes.
go back. Yeah, the minute I left, I actually had dreams about it for months, and in my dreams, I was sailing back there. My whole passage to New Zealand, I was dreaming that I was actually on the way back to Polynesia.
Yeah.
But it was arriving there after such a long passage too into the Marquesas, which are like you spend that much time at sea, and then all of a sudden you just come upon this rock in the middle of the ocean,
Mm.
and you go around the corner and you're in a protected anchorage and you can smell the flowers and they have amazing fruit growing on the trees. And I happened to come during one of their national holidays, so everyone
Mm.
was dressed up in their traditional clothes and dancing, and I was just, what is this? This is crazy.
Yeah, very cool.
But it's a beautiful country, and I love the way the locals, the Polynesians, the way they live is so cool because
Yeah, it's awesome.
they work until they have enough money to live comfortably for a couple of months, and then they stop working and they just enjoy their money. And then when they
Mm.
need to work again, they work again. And I think that's such a good philosophy in life because you can take it
Yeah,
beyond work, just like enjoy, slow down, don't run around and try to accumulate so much stuff. I feel like they really embody that.
yeah. I think it's a nice like balance. Like I think the capitalist system is good because you can save up and buy boats, and don't we all enjoy that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like in the Mediterranean, like the UK is very business oriented as like the US is, but like in the Med, it's much more of like a seaside family vibe. And
Mhm.
the people here, they don't want as much as like they do in like Northern Europe and the Americas and stuff like that. And they generally just seem happier. Like, they get the kicks out of a good Sunday with the kids at the park.
Yeah.
Rather than going to like a fancy restaurant for like a Sunday dinner or something like that. And it seems like, yeah, if you want like a fulfilled life, that's the way to go. Appreciate people rather than objects.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of lessons to be gained from cultures like that. And
Yeah.
like coming from the Western culture, I think we have a cool opportunity to mishmash them together and,
Yeah.
save up and buy the boat, but then don't work so hard that you can't enjoy the boat. Like actually go out and live on it and sail it and use your savings to do that instead of owning it on in a marina and taking it out on the weekends, which is also great if that's what you do. But think it's kind
Yeah.
of nice to spend your money, do
Yeah,
a bit
well,
of
it's just
traveling.
about learning about both ways of because it is one way or the other, isn't it? But I mean, I suppose you
Mhm.
could be homeless like selectively and have no money, but not many people do that. But yeah, I think when you come from like the type of environment that we're from, and then you see the way other people live, it really allows you to like choose how much effort you
Yeah,
put in to make money, and then how much time do you spend actually, just enjoying being around people and spending it, I
yeah.
suppose, rather than
Because
saving it.
I think we're taught to just accumulate, and we sort of
Yeah,
lose sight of why we're accumulating, and sometimes we just need that reminder that, oh, like this is why. This is actually
yeah.
pretty sweet.
Yeah. Do you think so? Like from that perspective, do you think French Polynesia changed your outlook on life a little bit as well?
Yeah, it probably did. Because I was starting to ramp up my YouTube channel then. It was kind of taking hold a bit. I was starting to make money off of it, and
Mm.
I was I had this choice of where I wanted to go with it. Like if I wanted to try to make it a bit more mainstream and use the tactics that guarantee you a bit more success, or if I wanted to kind of do it my own way and just get the money that I got from it, but make something that made me really happy. And I think that influenced me and kind of pushed me to be like, you know what, this is something that I enjoy making, and I don't want to put pressure on myself to make something I think I should make. and
Yeah.
it probably won't do as well, and I probably won't make as much money, but I think I'll have way more fun doing it. And as long as it
Oh yeah.
sustains my life and allows me to keep sailing, then that's really the goal. Like, I've never wanted to be a rich person, so
Yeah.
that's, and I think that's made me so happy over the last couple years, and probably made the channel better than it would have been if I'd tried to make it something that it wasn't naturally.
Yeah, mate. I think if Holly Martin started doing TNA thumbnails, it would be a strange direction. So I think yeah, keeping it authentic works. But it's nice, mate. Like my wife has made some videos of the sailing and the cruising, and she's put some on YouTube. Not to like make a business out of it, but we've got our son on board, and what I find fascinating is, like when I was growing up, honestly, I think I saw like maybe one or two photos of my great grandparents, like because people
Yeah.
just didn't take photos back then. Yeah, obviously a very different life. Not many people had cameras. But like for me to be able to, maybe in 20, 30 years or maybe in 100 years, my great grandkids,
Yeah.
want to be like, oh, do you want to see who your ancestors were? And there's like a catalogue on the internet of like conversations that I've had with people and stuff. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, like it being a bit of a time capsule, and you keep it authentic, and that's just amazing. Like, can you imagine like your
Yeah.
ancestors like hundreds of years later can watch you sail around the world by wind?
That would
Like that
be
would be a
cool.
crazy thought.
Yeah, or imagine if you could watch your ancestors being like, okay, now I'm gonna go milk the cow, and I would be fascinated to know
Yeah,
what their lives were like.
imagine that. Just like have a podcast running in the background of like your great 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 grandfather talking to some sailor who was in Indonesia. Like it would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a cool thing.
It'd be such a cool, yeah, and just for the culture too. And I mean, Indonesia is changing so quickly
Yeah,
with
rapidly.
the amount of tourism. Even what I've seen here in the last year, there's so many new buildings and restaurants and homestays, and just people in the surf is busier. And that's just a
Yeah.
year. And I think when we sail around and document these places, it also is documenting their history, seen through
Yeah.
our lens, but still kind of a cool little slice of that.
Yeah, you notice such a difference, like especially if you like watch some of like Limpardi's stuff, or even so, there's a few cruisers who've been making like sailing videos for a long time, um, and yeah, even if you look at some of the places in Asia, like over the last 10 years, like they've changed so much. I was just in Turkey, which is Asia technically, like a few weeks ago, went to Istanbul, and it'd been 10 years since I've been to Istanbul.
Mhm.
And like the difference that 10 years has made, it's gone from like the city looking like a very traditional Middle Eastern city, some high rise, but it's all like concrete
Mhm.
and stuff. And now it's like glass buildings and shopping malls and brand new
Wow.
marinas and stuff. And like, it's nice to look at, but it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel as
Yeah.
Turkish as it did before. Um,
Yeah, probably less like you're in a foreign city and more like you're just in a city.
yeah, well, if you go for a walk around and you're looking at like H&M and Starbucks, it's starting to not look that
It
different
could
from like anywhere else.
it could be anywhere.
Yeah. So this trip that you're going to do back, so you're obviously you're going to leave that till next year now. Are you going to try and stretch that out over a couple of years? Because you could hammer that out. You could get all the way back to the Caribbean, well, like 6 months if you left at the right time.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it depends what I think about South Africa, but
Hmm.
it would sort of mean committing to being in South Africa for a year.
Yeah,
Because I don't really want to do the African coast. I just feel like it's a bit complicated, and
bit
I just
sketchy.
want to be places where I feel safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think likely I'll probably just do the whole thing all in one go, which will be insane. But my mom wants to do one of the legs with me. Um,
No way.
Probably the second half of the Indian, so Rodriguez to South Africa,
That'd be
which I
wild.
think,
Did she do that
yeah,
before?
yeah. So they
Yeah.
circumnavigated on a Cal 25 back in
Yeah.
the late 80s, early 90s, and they did the same route. And she remembers that as being a horrible passage, and she's like, I don't want you to do that alone.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? That she wants to come
Yeah,
back
but
with you for the horrible one.
yeah, it is really nice of her. But I think it would also be amazing to do a passage with my mom. Like, what a special opportunity.
Yeah, that would be incredible. That would be
Yeah.
so cool because, like, obviously you were like born and brought up into that lifestyle, and she circumnavigated on a small boat also. So, that's a wicked story, mate. Like, you need to have kids and make them circumnavigate as well, and then like force the grandkids into it.
Force them, have kids, and they're all just gonna move to the Midwest.
Yeah, just chill out there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be awesome. When was the last time she was cruising on a boat? Because they went and lived. Is it Maine? Where your
Yeah.
parent, yeah, Maine, I remember, yeah, because so they've been set up off grid there for a while. When was the last time she was cruising?
I guess the last time would be when they visited me in French Polynesia, and they actually, it was really cool. Friends of mine left their boat for 3 months, and they'd never met my parents, but they were my good friends, and they
Hmm.
trusted me enough to let my parents sail their boat around for a month. So I buddy boated with my
Oh,
parents. Yeah, and it was a win for them because then they weren't paying the marina bill for that month.
yeah.
And my dad actually ended up having to fix their engine, I think. He came on board, and my poor dad, whose career is fixing boats and doing everything boat, and he was like, I'm finally gonna take a holiday. And my engine broke trying to sail to Tahiti to meet them. So I ended up taking an extra 24 hours because I was just drifting out at sea.
Hmm.
So day one, my dad helped me get my engine going again. And then day two, he had to work on the engine of the boat that they were on.
But he's used to it. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so
he didn't mind, but my mom and I were like, "Oh, sorry."
yeah, I suppose I don't know if it's too optimistic to think you could just turn up on a boat and it'll work. Probably is actually. I've never experienced that.
Yeah, I mean, he probably was expecting something to go wrong, but he
Yeah.
was very good-natured about it. I
That's
will say
so
that for him.
nice that you got
Yeah.
to buddy boat because like I know they've been to visit you and stuff like that, but yeah, the opportunity to like take a spare boat and just like go cruising with them for a month, that's amazing. Did they enjoy it a lot?
Yeah, I think they really loved it.
Yeah,
And it was nice because, my boat is super tiny. So when we were talking about options when the engine of their boat didn't work, they said, I was like, well, you can come sail on my boat if you want to. And we were going to do that, but it just worked out so much better that they could have their own boat. And then they went off and did their own thing for a bit too, and just had
yeah.
like their time together, which I think was probably really special for them too.
Oh, that's wicked. That's such a cool experience. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my mum on this boat, and she doesn't want to come, and it's explicitly my fault. So when we had our first boat in like North Wales, we were taking it out in conditions we shouldn't have really taken it out. Do you know what I mean? As you do when you're young and you don't know much. And we sailed around this little island off the coast of North Wales, and we ended up. I can't, all of a sudden the swell was coming from behind us instead of in front of us. I don't really know what went on with the weather, but there was like there was a current as well, and there was all sorts. But she was sat like right at the stern of the boat, and a wave literally just went over the back of the boat, and my mother just
Ooh.
disappeared underneath this
She went
wave.
overboard?
No, she stayed there.
Oh,
She was just reading a magazine, and then
that's
this
such
wave,
bad luck.
yeah, this wave just went straight over her. We thought it was hilarious, but she didn't like it. And yeah, since me and my dad were laughing.
Your poor
Um,
mom.
yeah, poor mum. And then yeah, since then she's just not really been up for getting on any type of boat. And I've tried to tell, I'm like, it's a big boat, mum. You'll be absolutely comfortable. And she's like, nope, not getting on that. If it's in a marina, I'll get on it, but not,
That's
not if
funny.
it's going out into the water. So yeah, we're trying to get her onto it. She'll never do a passage, but she might come and hang out for a week or something on anchor with us. We'll see.
That's cool. I mean, I don't think my sister did a passage with me,
Yeah,
Fiji to New Zealand, and my mom would, but I don't think my dad and my brother would want to do that on my boat. I think my
yeah.
dad is sort of he cruises around Maine for a month every summer on the boat he built.
Oh,
But
nice.
that's pretty much all he wants to do with sailing now. I don't think he would want to go be at sea again. I think he's kind of
Yeah,
put that behind him. It's definitely not for everyone, and it's taken me so long to realize that because I think we all think that everyone is like us. And so I assumed that everyone really wanted to sail around the world. They just weren't doing it for some reason. and it's taken
Yeah, I know what
it's
you mean.
taken it's taken meeting a lot of people who enjoy boats like your mom, but they don't want to do passages or they don't want to leave the side of land for me to realize that it's actually not for most people. Actually, my
Yeah,
grandmother had to tell me that once when I was like, I just don't understand why like there's not more people who want to come sail with me. It's such a fun thing. And she kind of sat me down and she was like, Holly, not everyone loves sailing.
yeah, mate.
I
If
was
you look at like
26.
your average, 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, it's a very different lifestyle to the one we've got. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very different. Electricity is just there. You don't need to worry about, stars in order to get
Yeah.
energy on your boat. So yeah, it's a
Or
bit
your
different.
battery's exploding. Yeah.
Yeah, all the shit that you have to deal with. Yeah, it's very different. But your parents have like they've been through that life, and then they've like they've built their own little life up as well on land. So they're
Yeah.
probably they're going to be hard people. You know what I mean? They're going to be used to it. But yeah, most people wouldn't. We've realised this year because like all of the time, not when I was younger when I had a boat because that was just more potting around. But since we've been full time cruising, we've slowed our pace down quite a lot. And in doing so, we've met like a lot of really cool people. Some people who've been in like spots for like a year or 2 years. And they're
Yeah.
just like, no, we love our boat. We love living on the boat. We love this bay because we've got everything in these towns and then there's a beach.
Hmm.
And yeah, we love the water. So we're just going to like chill here until we get really bored. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? Like, get out with it what you want and just be happy how you want to be happy. Um,
Yeah.
and if you're happy on the ocean, open ocean, that's great. But there's a lot of people that live on boats. Like we in England, we have people that live on boats in like the middle of towns on the canals, and yeah, they will just like motor around the northwest of England their entire lives living on boats.
Yeah.
So just different way of living on the water, isn't it?
There's so many ways of doing it. And
Yeah,
there's no right way. It's just what feels right for you. But also,
yeah,
the longer that I have sailed, the slower I go.
yeah,
Spending 2 years in Polynesia made me realize that that's actually the pace that I prefer to the season I did New Zealand, Vanuatu, Solomons, Australia. It was just insane and I was exhausted and I'd get to an anchorage and I would just want to stay because I loved it and I met some really cool locals and then I'd have to leave 2 days later. And there's something about moving really slowly that I think feeds into what cruising is, which is just a very slow paced lifestyle where you can follow your whims, find the anchorage that you love and spend a month or two there and
yeah.
really get everything out of it.
Yeah, and like get a real feel for the place. I think you need to spend time with the locals to like properly get a vibe for what even a town
Hmm.
is like. But like we get the question a lot, like, oh, when are you going over to the Caribbean or when are you like sailing to the next place? And I'm like, you know what, we're in Greece. The people here are just super nice. The food is amazing. It's so pretty. Like I'm not in a rush to leave anywhere like this. Like
Yeah,
why would I? You know,
no,
this is
exactly.
nice.
And that's how I feel about Indonesia now too. It took me a while to warm up to it because it is a different
It's
culture than
culturally
one
super
that,
different.
yeah, and it was a bit of a learning curve, but now I'm starting to figure it out. And Indonesians are so friendly, so
Yeah,
funny. Like interacting with them, it's just like it's like playing with kids who
yeah.
are you're a
Happy
kid
for
too.
life.
And yeah, exactly. It's really awesome. Everyone always has big smiles and it's yeah, it's a great culture.
Yeah. I suppose it'll change depending on where you're in Indonesia, but that's like the first Islamic country you would have been cruising in. Or have you
Yeah.
did you go to like no, you didn't go to Malaysia or anything like that, did you?
No, no, and I think that is where the big cultural part that I had to learn was just figuring that out because it is really different than anything else that I've experienced. But I had the like Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomons, they're not Muslim countries, but their women are very modest. So I was kind of
Yeah,
already up to speed with that, like wearing the right clothes when I go out and about. But then there is a slightly different twist on the culture too, which to me is part of the joy of traveling is learning all these different cultures and ways of living and seeing people
yeah.
happy in every different life scenario and realizing that there's like sailing, there's no wrong way of living really.
Yeah, it's a good way to see outside the bubble as well, because it's like, like for your average, young person like you, or not so young anymore person like me, like if you brought up in like Europe or America and you go on vacation to the spots where you log on online and you see where do you go on vacation if you live in Maine or like the northwest of England or something, you're never really getting out of your zone, or you're never getting
Yeah.
out of like your cultural bubble, because you're just you know doing the same thing but just in a different country. But yeah, go having the opportunity to go to places like the Far East or the Middle East and like see how the other side of the world actually lives. It's really eye opening, and you learn to appreciate some of your own things a bit more as well in a way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, living on your boat, you're going to the markets that all the locals shop at. So you're getting,
Yeah.
it's like if you're in a resort and you're eating at the restaurant, you don't get to see like
Yeah.
trudging to the grocery store, trying to figure out where to buy flour. I feel like it sort of brings you down a little bit, like another level of getting into a country and figuring
Yeah.
those things out and being a bit more relatable to the people you meet when they see you carrying jerry's of water across the beach. They're like, oh, this person
Yeah.
is a little bit
Rather
more
than just
similar
walking
to
out the
me
bar.
than with a drink in my hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mate, I wanted to say actually, you produced what I thought was the funniest sailing video I've ever seen. And that was when you were doing the crossing with your sister, and you did like a video and you did like impressions of different type of sailors.
Oh, the five types of sailors.
Yeah, yeah. Mate, I don't think I ever mentioned that to you, but that was the funniest shit I've ever seen anyone do on a sailboat. That was amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, that was when she visited me in Polynesia.
Yeah,
We had so much fun coming up with that.
yeah, that
She
was
did a
great.
great job. The When she did the racer, that was just all ad-libbed. She got really into
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
this
that's
is
cool.
gold. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Has she spent any
Yeah.
time sailing or cruising other than spending that time with you? Because like you decided to, like refit out your own boat and get out there. But
Mhm.
did you spend when you were younger, did your entire family after you'd completed your journey as a family, did you get out on boats at all as a family after that? Or was it you just picking up a hobby that your parents did type of thing?
So my mom runs a sailing camp in the summer, and that's in
Oh,
Maine. So when we moved there, that was our every summer. She just would, we were little, we'd be campers, and then she would have us work for her when we got older. And that
no way.
was, I think, for all of us, every summer of our teenage years, and even a little bit after. So that was how we all got the love of sailing. But my
Oh,
sister's
nice.
yeah, she's a dive master. So that was sort of what she started pursuing as a young teen. That was her passion, which is, equally oceany, just slightly less
Yeah.
in the middle of the oceany. But she gets seasick
Yeah.
pretty badly. So I think that sort of kept her from doing too much cruising, except when I can wrangle her into coming onto my boat.
Yeah. Yeah, I have so much respect for people who like get intensely seasick, but they just love sailing so much and they keep at it.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
same.
I was on a regatta team like a few years ago, and there was a guy on there from Portugal, really nice guy. Called him Joey. His name's not actually Joey. I can't remember his real name, but he had a smile and an energy that reminded me of Joey from Friends. Do you know, just like this
Oh, the goofy sort of like,
Yeah, he wasn't
yeah,
goofy, but he just had this like awesome smile that made me happy. So I called him Joey.
that's
Anyway,
funny.
nice, really nice guy. So he would turn green, like, and he was Portuguese, so he had like the most
Mhm.
wonderful brown skin. But whenever he got on a boat and started sailing, he would just turn completely green, start vomiting everywhere. I'd be like, mate, do you not get sick of this? He was just like, no, no, it's worth it. I love it. I love sailing. I love being out on the water. And I was like, that is some real love for sailing.
It is. I had a shipmate like that because I used to do tall ships before I got my boat, and
Yeah.
he was the same. He got so seasick, and he loved sailing more than anyone else in the crew. And we all were like, "I don't understand you.
Why
If
are you
I
doing
was that
this?
sick, yeah, I would not be sailing. I'd pick something else." But he just loved it so much he couldn't not do it.
Yeah, it's nuts. But we're friends with a couple called Maddie and Herb, and they put really nice videos on the internet as well. They're called Rigging Doctor, and he's into old school sailing, and they do like he's got Dyneema rigging, and he doesn't use a chart plotter, and low
Oh, that's
electronics and
cool.
stuff. Yeah, he does his crossings with a sextant and all that. He's a super smart, talented person. And she's incredibly seasick. So like when they did their last Atlantic crossing, she's in bed for like 3 weeks. She can't move out of bed. And we went sailing with them in Greece. Like we did a charter with them a few years ago. And literally, as soon as you get out there, like her head is just straight over the lifelines, just
Oh,
vomiting all
that's
over the place.
terrible.
But she doesn't care. She just loves being out on a boat. She's like, no, it's worth it.
Yeah, my sister was such a trooper because she was seasick the whole passage to New Zealand, and I was like, don't do anything. Like I think she did a 2 or 3 hour watch every night, and for the rest of the time, I didn't even. I told her she didn't even have to do that, but she wanted to. But it is the worst
Yeah.
feeling, so I was like, just lie down. But I don't know how she did it because I think I would go crazy after what was our
Yeah, you
passage,
couldn't
nine
hold any
days or
food down, could
something.
you?
No, she lost a lot of weight. I was a little bit jealous. I was
I
like,
was going to say, yeah, it's a great way to lose weight. Do a 40-day
yeah.
passage. It's like the OG Ozempic, I suppose, isn't it? Without the
Yeah.
chemicals.
Just go to sea, get yourself a little sick.
Yeah, to get a small boat, go out to sea for 40 days and look like a Kardashian of some type when you arrive at the next destination.
Except all your muscles are atrophied because you're not
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, you're not going to be in good shape, but you feel skinnier.
No.
So it might be worth it. Yeah, that's cool. So have you thought about what you want to do once you've completed this circumnavigation? Because obviously you made like it's your DNA, you're designed to be on the water.
Mhm.
Do you want to hang out in a specific cruising ground? Are you thinking about a different type of boat? Like what are your general thoughts on it all?
I have no idea. I hadn't even considered it because I figured something would come up and that would feel like the right thing at the time. But
Hmm.
Dan, my partner, he's British, but he's also a Canadian citizen, and that's where he lives now is BC, and he
Oh,
loves being
nice.
in the mountains. So I'm gonna go visit him in April and spend a couple months with him there. And he was like, "That's where I want to make my life." So I don't know.
It's
It's
a
like
nice
the polar
place.
opposite of sailing, but it seems like a beautiful spot. I don't think I could ever live there full time. I think I'd always have to do deliveries or some sort of boat work. But I think
Yeah,
I'm getting to the point where I do want a little bit more stability and community. I haven't been back to the States in almost 3 years, and I feel like all my friendships are starting to they would still be there, but I'm never around and I kind of miss having that. So I like the idea of having a bit of a home base and then
yeah.
going off and twiddling around the world doing different silly stuff. I might try to get my Antarctica job back, do that a couple times a year, do some deliveries. Um, yeah, but honestly, who knows? We'll just see what happens.
I think a mix is the best way to do it. Like we're this is our second year on the boat full time. So, like for the first 5 years, we're probably going to like stay on the boat and really get the most out of it. But like our long term
Mhm.
plan is probably to do like 8 months on the boat and then the rest of the time
Yeah,
just like be on land because I think it's a good mix. But like British
yeah,
Columbia would be a great place to spend time on land if you're going to spend time on land because it's part of North America where it's just so gorgeous and you've got great summers there. The people are so nice over there as well, and
hmm
you could have a little boat there, and you could spend nice time bopping around even like during the summer if you just
yeah,
wanted to stay local. It's a beautiful part of the world.
yeah. And like you said, I've found that I actually really prefer a balance of sailing. I did it full time for the first 2.5 years, and that was awesome, but I got a little bit burnt out, and now I
Yeah,
really enjoy having that time away from the boat and just being immersed in land nature and being a bit more active too. The boat's kind of sedentary, and I feel best when I'm moving my body every day. So thought of
yeah,
just going and doing a bunch of sports and land somewhere and then going back to my boat and playing around. Yeah,
yeah,
an important
yeah.
balance.
I think it's good to keep the balance for sure. So how did you end up meeting a British person on the other side of the world and shacking up with them? How did that story end up?
Yeah, we actually met on the beach in the Tuamotus.
No way.
He was yeah.
Not many of us
My
get
own
there, so that's quite weird.
yeah. Um, because he worked as a private chef on a Oyster 62.
Oh my
Um,
God, amazing.
yeah, and which is a boat I never would have approached on my own. But my sister and I were just walking down the beach, and it's a pretty remote spot, and he was fixing his surfboard, and we just started chatting, and we went out spearfishing, and then they had us over for dinner, and then we were friends for a couple years, and there aren't that many young people cruising, so you kind of
Yeah.
gravitate towards the ones that are around you. So we just started hanging out more and more, and then started shacking up, and then he quit his job in February and moved
Hmm.
on to the boat. So he flew to Australia to Townsville, and then we sailed from Townsville up the Great Barrier Reef to Darwin and then to Indonesia together. And then
Very
that was
cool.
when he decided that he doesn't actually like sailing. So he's
It's different
so
on a 62-foot oyster when you're a private chef.
yeah, I think, and he had a purpose. He worked really hard, and
Yeah, it
so
was a
and he
job.
was making good money, and he realized that without that and yeah, way fewer comforts, just wasn't his thing. So we kind of were like, all right, well, you do your life in Canada, I'll do my life on the boat. We'll visit each other and we'll just figure it out. Both have our own thing going that we're passionate about. And then he gets to go on really cool holidays and I get to go on really cool holidays. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's a nice way to it's a nice way to balance it out. What did you think of the great country of England and your time there?
I loved it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I've I've always loved reading my entire life, and I've read so many books that take place in England, and I had this
Mm,
picture in my head. And places are never what you imagine them to be like, but England was exactly how I'd pictured it, just like cute and quaint with beautiful buildings and the hills and the accents and the cobbled streets. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it was a very cool country. Definitely love to go back there and see more of it.
Whereabouts? Because you were in the south, weren't you?
Yeah, we kind of
Yeah.
did a lot of it. We started in London and then I went down to the South Coast to visit some sailing friends.
Nice.
And then we went all the way up towards the north. I'm forgetting the name. Oh, Yorkshire area.
Oh, Yorkshire.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
like
that
across the mountains from where I'm from. Yorkshire's very beautiful.
it was stunning. Yeah. But we kind of just visited a bunch of Dan's family, did a little road trip with his parents, and his family spread out all over the place. So it was kind of a fun way to see
So
it.
he's from Yorkshire.
His parents are both from there, but then his dad is military, so he kind of grew up all around England, but I think
Nice.
formative years in Bath.
Oh, Bath is so pretty. Oh, that place is
Yeah.
so nice. Well, that's all Roman, actually. That's all, well, some of it, not all of it, but like a lot of it is Roman. So, like the cobbled streets and stuff, they were built by Italians a couple of thousand years ago.
Yeah, there were the Roman baths, and we walked past them,
Oh,
and I
yeah, they're
didn't
stunning.
realize that it was actually Roman baths until afterwards. I thought someone just
Yep.
named it that to make it appealing. And I was like, what? That's so cool.
No, it's
So much
real. It's not
history.
marketed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I'd
Bath.
love to do the Med one day because of all the history there. Like, Italy seems like such an
Oh,
amazing
it's crazy,
country.
mate. We just pulled up in this new anchorage yesterday because we're on it's not far. It's like 600 miles, but we're just going from one side of Greece to the other. But we're chilling out because it's winter. The weather is a bit unpredictable, so we're just picking like a few protected anchorages, and we're going to spread it out over the course of a month. Some of them are pretty, but like we turned up at this anchorage a couple of days ago, and like we had one of our friends who lives here as a local. He's a rigger. He came on board for drinks last night. And I was just like, oh, what's exciting around here? And he was like, oh, it's boring. And I was like, all right. And then he started talking about like there's some ancient ruins, like there's some 4,000-year-old ancient ruins that you can go and snorkel across at the other side of the
Oh,
bay.
cool.
I was like, what? He was like, yeah, the old town was
Super
under the water
boring.
there.
Yeah.
I was like, that's insane. And there's so many places where you pull up and there's stuff like that. It's yeah, it's incredible. It's a lot of it's
Yeah.
under the water because like the sea levels have risen over like 4,000 years as it has,
Yeah.
and but yeah, it's so fascinating.
And I think especially as an American, because we don't have old buildings, like the Native Americans didn't really leave traces like that. So we're
Yeah,
like, well, this building's from 1800. And then to go somewhere where things are thousands of years old just blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, mate, we just did the festival, which we'll talk about in a minute because you're going to be doing that at the BVI. But so we just did the last one in Greece, and I think it was 60% of the customers that came to this. They also did the BVI, and they were from
Cool.
America or Canada,
Mhm.
mostly America and Canada, but mostly America. And like a bunch of them had not been to Europe before, which is one thing because Europe's got old stuff, but Greece has like got the oldest stuff. And their minds were blown. Like we dropped anchor in Aegina, and it's like 5 minute walk, well 15 minute walk up the hill, and you're at like some old like temple that's like 4,000 years old, but it's still standing and it looks beautiful. And
So
they're just
cool.
like, oh my god, this is crazy! Like this is so older than America.
Yeah.
It's like it's just nuts. Um, but yeah, it's so cool. It puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? Like when
Yeah.
even in Asia, because you've got some really old stuff in Indonesia and especially Malaysia. But
Yeah, all
yeah,
the
it
temples and
puts
stuff.
like some of the temples and stuff. In Cambodia is another one. You've got some really old stuff in Cambodia. But yeah, it puts everything into perspective. Like our time on this planet is a pin drop in the ocean, and there's so
Yeah.
much more impressive stuff gone on in the past. Actually, when you look at this old stuff, you're like, we can't build these today. Like, how did they do that 4,000 years ago? They were so
And it's
smart.
still standing. Yeah, I don't think a lot of our skyscrapers are still going to be standing in 4,000 years. It's not built to last.
No, they would have built over them with bigger skyscrapers.
Yeah.
That's the way the cities are going. So yeah, that's cool. Do you think you'd ever be tempted to come to the Med and do some cruising in the Med?
Yeah, I think probably not on my boat, but I'm one of my pipe dreams is actually getting like a catamaran. I think would be a sick boat to. I don't think I'd
For the
want to
Med,
do
yeah.
ocean crossings on it necessarily.
Mm.
There are a lot of people who do, and I respect that, but I'd love to, yeah, just have it somewhere where I wasn't doing big passages, but like be able to have friends out and just explore in a really easy way. The Med or Polynesia, just go back there and live there, do charter work or whatever to pay the bills. But yeah,
Yeah,
the Med seems awesome. I've always wanted to see what it's like there.
yeah, it's cool. There's a lot going on. Right, we'll just mention the festival, mate, because
Hmm.
you're gonna be doing that. So that's in
Oh,
the
I can't wait.
BVI. You're going to be piloting a fairly big catamaran as well, which is a bit different from your usual vessel. I think you're on a 48-foot Barley, is it? I think it's a 48-foot Barley.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
I
very
mean,
pretty.
almost double my boat each hull.
Yeah, each hull. Yeah, they're so nice. They've got you press a button and the cockpit. Well, it's not really the cockpit area, but like the outdoor seating area, like your cockpit. That's what we call it. That's um that's completely enclosed with like glass windows, but you press a button and then they all like lift up automatically, and the whole thing becomes like an
That's
outdoor
very,
terrace. Yeah, it's
it's
pretty sick.
amazing.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
like to cross the Atlantic on one of them, but I do like to chill out on them. They're very nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was chatting with my friends. We stayed on the friend's boat. They had a lagoon, and I was like, "Oh, show me how this thing works. Like, I'm gonna be driving one of these around." So he was like, we put the sails in and out, and it's cool. There's like it's so straightforward the way everything runs, and I don't know. It's not like don't touch that because that will break. You're like, yeah, this is this is gonna work when you use it. Maybe that's just my boat that I'm used to.
I think that's just a cruiser's boat, mate. You
Yeah,
just
probably.
you know all the weak points, and you rarely have enough money to fix them, so you
Yeah.
just deal with it. I think that's the way it usually goes. Yeah, yeah. Well, mate, I'll put like all the information on this podcast so people can check out what boat you're on and if they want to come say stuff. And yeah, it's been cool having a catch up. I think you've done it old school, haven't you? And you've kept it really authentic, which is a really nice way to see the world.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's very rewarding, challenging, but feels good.
Yeah, it feels good. Right, mate. We'll be sailing together in a few months then.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to that. It seems
Yeah,
like a
it's
blast.
yeah, it's going to be a good party. We'll do some nice sailing. So yeah, we'll have a good time.
Yeah, and the fact that so many of the captains keep returning to me says that it's just that much fun that you have that much turnover, not turnover, the opposite of turnover,
Yeah.
consistency.
Um, Consistency maybe. I don't know the word for that. It doesn't matter. It's
Policy?
good.
Yeah.